Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, The Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, best-selling author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Hey everyone, America's favorite financial sidekick here, Aaron Orender. You know, if there's one thing that I know about Tony, it's this. He loves helping people. He loves meeting with people all day and just sitting down, talking, and helping them figure out their questions when it comes to retirement. And when it comes to retirement, we've all got questions. And we all want answers. I mean, even I've got questions about what my retirement's gonna look like. That's why Tony decided to bring our good friend Diane Williamson back to the studio to sit down and discuss some of the most common questions that he hears from people while meeting with them. Questions like, what's a fiduciary? What are the benefits of rolling over my 401k? And, hey, what's so great about annuities? So let's join in on their conversation to hear what Tony has to say about your game plan for your retirement.
Tony, I keep hearing the term fiduciary, and it's a relatively new term, at least to me. Can you explain what that is and why it's so important for folks to work with a fiduciary?
Well, actually, you're right. Fiduciary is a term you don't hear a lot. In the financial world, though, it's getting very, very popular because there are so many people giving financial advice now. So a fiduciary, by definition, simply means that someone is going to be working in your best interest, not theirs. The problem in the financial world, in order to transact business, to manage your money, for instance, you don't have to be a fiduciary by law. In other words, it's kind of odd, but you don't have to actually be held to a higher standard of working in someone's best interest. So we at Tony Walker Financial have volunteered, we have elected to become fiduciaries. We have the proper licensing. Besides myself, there are 3 other fiduciaries, and our job is to make sure that we are working in the client's best interest.
So give me an example of what a first meeting might look like if I'm a new client, I come into your office and I meet with you or one of your associates.
Yeah, a good way to tell if you're working with a fiduciary is how quickly are they moving you through the process. So for instance, at Tony Walker Financial, that first meeting, Diane, when we sit down, we're basically going to go over all of your information. That's all we do at the first meeting. We're collecting data, we're making sure we understand what it is you want and what you're trying to achieve. Then in almost all cases, we have a second appointment. Now during the second appointment is where we provide all of our findings, all of our assessment, and that information is confidential to you and personalized to you. Now here's the real thing that really surprises people. We generally don't ask people to buy anything after that second meeting unless they're ready to move forward. We encourage them to take their information home, study it, make sure they understand how we're paid, how much money we're going to make on the transaction if they move money over, and just make sure they have a real comfort level. So yes, in conclusion, Diane, you want to make sure you're working with a fiduciary.
All of a sudden, I'm getting all of these postcards or letters that are invitations to a free dinner. Why am I getting all these invitations all of a sudden?
Well, I hate to say this, I won't guess your age, but you're starting to expose your age a little bit. But usually the magic number is around age 55, Diane. There are so many databases out there where advisors can latch onto the databases, and for a fee, other companies will market these dinner seminars. So for instance, I could go to one of these companies. We did dinner seminars years ago. Find out in Louisville, Kentucky, all the folks that are over the age of 55, we pay a lot of money. They'll send them these dinner seminar invitations, and then we have a nice steak dinner, and then I do my dog and pony show, and we hope somebody comes in and moves money over. Now, there's nothing wrong with dinner seminars, don't get me wrong, but there's a real problem here. A lot of people that go to dinner seminars, what I've found, because they come to me years after they've been to these and bought products, they're kind of desperate. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know who to trust. They got a 401k and they've worked all these years, and it's like, well, here's a dinner I guess we could go to. So they go check it out. They meet a nice person. The next thing you know, though, here's the sad part, Diane. In 30 or 40 minutes, they're rolling over their life savings to a complete stranger in exchange for a dinner. And the only thing I could tell people is you got to be very careful. This is a huge decision who you're going to trust with your money. So the first thing you got to decide is that person experienced in retirement planning? You see, with 10,000 people retiring every day, basically in this country, there's a lot of people out there who know you're getting ready to retire. So I would be very careful about where you go, who you spend your money with, who you invest with, or at least before you do anything after a dinner seminar, be sure to get a second opinion.
That makes sense. It sounds like the situation after a storm, you get a lot of contractors coming into town. You have to be very careful about who you are going to work with.
Absolutely. I guess I would say in the end, let the buyer beware. And again, before you do anything, get a second opinion from a fiduciary like Tony Walker Financial.
All of a sudden, I seem to hear a lot of commercials and I'm getting mailers about retirement planning. It seems everybody's doing it. Even the banks are doing it. So are these people really qualified to plan your retirement for you?
Well, here's the facts. There are 10,000 people each and every day turning 65, which means a lot of people with a lot of money. And many of these people they don't have a plan for retirement. And the big financial institutions, the money managers, the banks, they know this. So they're going after those folks, quite frankly. They realize there's a lot of gold in them, their hills. Now, the problem with all this is, do these folks really understand retirement planning? There's a lot that goes into retirement planning. There's issues with taxes, there's fees, different types of insurance, how that money is going to be invested, how to save on taxes as you're pulling money out, and eventually how much is going to be left upon your death to your loved ones. So a retirement planning specialist, first of all, has to be a fiduciary, in my opinion. They need to be able to present to you a game plan, which we have our proprietary software, and then they have to have evidence that they've worked on several game plans. So a game plan will share with you all of the assets you have. It'll share with you how the income will come out. You'll be able to see how long that money will last, and that will give you the flexibility and knowledge of knowing that, hey, I've got a game plan. If something happens to me or my spouse, we're going to have a plan. We know what to do. So if that person that's talking to you about retirement planning is only talking about investments or annuities or products and they don't show you a game plan, I would get a second opinion immediately before I made any financial decisions.
That would have to be a relief to anyone to have this game plan. What would that cost me if I came in to meet with you?
Good question. It's absolutely free. Since we work on a commission or fee basis, we don't get paid unless you move money to our process. So yes, the game plan, all the preparation for that is absolutely free of charge.
Tony, over a period spanning 5 decades, you have been working with other people's money, something like 15,000 savers. Tell me what kind of an impact that's had on you, and what have you learned about working with other people's money?
Well, first of all, I have an appreciation for the type of clientele we work with, Diane. Most of the clients we have are very, very hard-working savers. Many of these people have worked in middle management, manufacturing, construction, just executives that have worked very hard. So I have an appreciation that this is their money. And what it's also taught me is most people, ironically, because they've worked so hard to save all this money, when they get into retirement, many folks don't have a plan for spending and enjoying it because they're afraid to. They're afraid they might run out of money. So what we do is very unusual at Tony Walker Financial because we're trying to set up a game plan to show them how to use and enjoy that money now before it's too late. You know, recently I wrote a book called Live Well, Die Broke, and the whole theme of that book was, after watching all of these savers' lives play out, most people, I feel, wait too long to spend and enjoy their money. I know you mentioned something about that with your family, same thing. But share the experience you had with your parents.
They were pretty good about making sure that they spent the money, or when they gave us money, they made sure that they gave us money while they were still alive to see us enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Or in my case, I was able to buy my first home because Mom and Dad did it right and they set us up.
Well, I can assure you, at Tony Walker Financial, Diane, we're going to do the same thing for our clients, and we look forward to helping people do just that.
Tony is a financial advisor to thousands of savers. How is it possible for you to be able to see 20 to 30 potential clients every single week and keep it all straight? I mean, really only one person. How do you do it all?
Well, first of all, I've been very blessed with excellent staff. And also, over the years, I've been able to develop a process that is very, very focused on savers. We have our own proprietary software, and that software keeps everybody in our office focused. So a lot of advisors, as they grow their firm, quite frankly, they'll hire more and more advisors to go out and sell more products. I don't do that. I'm the main salesperson. I direct everything and see everybody, but then I have this wonderful staff behind me. So let's talk about the 3 salaried fiduciaries I have. These 3 folks, Heather Hughes in our Bowling Green office, my son-in-law Trey Juergens in our Louisville office, my nephew Wes Walker in our Lexington office, they make sure that everything is serviced what I sell, and then they help oversee things that the clients might need. Then we have the staff. We have 10 full-time people besides those fiduciaries that are there to continue to service what we sell.
So once you have brought a new client on board, do they ever see you again? How does that work?
Yeah, a lot of people ask that. They'll say, well, I'm sure you're going to get back to the TV show or whatever you're doing. I won't see you again. That's not true at all. In fact, Diane, as we record this interview, I had 20 appointments yesterday. I'll have 10 appointments today. And of all those appointments, that's 30 appointments in 2 days. Approximately, off the top of my head, 8 of those folks were existing clients. In fact, I just met with someone I hadn't seen in 8 years, and they just wanted to come in and see me. So no, as long as Tony Walker's here, I'm going to be available to my clients.
Service after the sale. I like it.
Absolutely.
Tony, I've been in this situation where I left an employer and I had a 401k kind of hanging out there. And then other people who retire and they don't really know what to do with their 401k. What is the benefit of rolling that money over to Tony Walker Financial?
That's a good question. First of all, a 401k is a savings plan, but it's not a plan. It's not really anything that's managed. You have to pick your own investments. And what I've found, Diane, is when people leave an employer, even if they're 40 or 45 years of age, it's always advantageous to put that with an independent financial advisor. Number one, we can get certain products that usually the 401k does not offer. The second advantage of that is now we can devise a plan. You have a local retirement firm that's actually watching over it. You're not dialing a 1-800 number or getting online and looking at something that looks like a financial sushi menu. So this allows us to manage the money, properly position it, and also as someone gets a little older, we had a person in the office today, now they're getting ready to retire. And it's interesting, we moved that money over from a former 401k 10 years ago. We already kind of have the plan, and they are so comfortable retiring and now moving the balance of their new 401k over to us.
That's interesting. What if I'm still working for an employer? Can I move that 401k to you, or do I have to quit?
Yeah, that's really a good point. So if someone is over the age of 59 and a half, this is a government age, I don't know where they came up with this, but basically, and let's say you're still working, but you say, Tony, I want my 401k with you. I want a plan around this, but I still want to contribute to my 401k. Can I do that? Surprisingly, usually you can. So let's take an example. Someone's 60 years of age, they're still working, they're funding a 401k. They could roll over their current 401k to us, no charge, no taxes, we'll manage it, and then still contribute to their 401k. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Tony, you've talked about something called a split IRA. I've never heard of that. First of all, what is it? And secondly, what are the benefits?
Well, over the years, we noticed, Diane, that many of our clients come to us and they've got a good majority of their assets are in a 401k plan, or they've got a lot of money languishing over at the bank, or maybe even a recent inheritance that they don't know what to do with. This split IRA concept we created is a game changer because it does 2 things. Number one, it allows the client to have complete access to a portion of that money at any time they want without penalty. We put that money in what we call our Charles Schwab platform. Charles Schwab is the custodian. We do all the money management. The balance of that money we put in a fixed annuity, one that can provide what I call mailbox money, which is guaranteed income that saver can never outlive. Now let's talk about the Charles Schwab bucket, because a lot of people know us for annuities, but they don't realize our investment expertise. We have, as of the date of this recording, over $150 million with Charles Schwab that we manage, with over 1,600 clients. And the beauty of this is we do all the management, we do all the selection of funds, and in fact we have 5 different portfolios that a saver can choose from. So let's say a saver is very risk averse and doesn't want to take a lot of risk. We could choose what we call our ultra conservative portfolio. But let's say we have a saver that says, you know what, Tony, I'm okay taking some risk with some of that money. We could go all the way up to what we call our aggressive portfolio. So at Tony Walker Financial, we recognize that there's different needs for different people. There's no one size fits all. So we've created this split IRA to give the client maximum flexibility with the ability to make sure they can turn on that mailbox money for lifetime income that they can never outlive.
That sounds interesting. How would someone get started to see if the split IRA works for them?
Well, that's easy. All you got to do is go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the Let's Get Started, and we would provide a free review of their situation.
Explain to me the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA. I hear both terms interchangeably, and I have no idea what it means. And how is the difference important to savers?
That is probably the most confusing thing to people when people say, well, I want a Roth, or I want an IRA or a Roth conversion. What I've found over the years, sometimes if you can use pictures to describe these complicated words the government's created, and I use the analogy of driving into a large city for the first time and you see a parking garage. And let's say you don't know anything about parking garages, but you got to park your car. So you pull into a garage and it happens to be called the pre-tax parking garage, okay? So you pull up and there's a little man standing there and you grab your ticket and you park in the garage for a couple days, and as you're leaving, as you go out, there's that little man again and he wants to see the ticket. And you say, well, what's that for? Well, the longer you stay in this garage, the more it's going to cost you. So the pre-tax or IRA, that's the money that you're going to owe the IRS one day when you go to take it out, and it can be very expensive. So you go back the next day and you say, well, I don't want to park in the pre-tax garage, so you see another garage that says the Roth garage. You pull in there, the little man's there, and he says it'll be $20. And you say, $20 for what? And he says, well, in this garage you can park here as long as you want, and when you leave the garage, you pay nothing. So a Roth IRA, the power of a Roth IRA is it allows you to enjoy that money, to allow it to accumulate as long as you want it to stay in there. It can grow to any amount imaginable, and there will never be another tax paid. So the idea is you pay the tax now rather than later. Now the problem with all this, Diane, most people don't know how to analyze that. This is why I have a full-time staff that analyzes the tax situation, the investments, and all that goes into determining whether a Roth or an IRA is best for you.
That makes sense because taxes are always a moving target.
Absolutely. And we can help make sure that moving target, we hone in on it and save you money on taxes.
Tony, I did a little research on you before I came in today, and I know that you're one of the largest producers of annuities around. But then when I looked into annuities on the internet, it seems like there's some negatives about annuities. Can you walk me through why they're good?
Yeah, I'd say when you say some negatives, actually, if you Googled annuities on the internet, probably more bad than good. Unfortunately, most people that talk about investments anymore come from kind of the investment world or Wall Street. Annuity products are not Wall Street products, so there's the rub right there. Annuities are issued by insurance companies. So insurance companies and Wall Street, if you think about it, they're kind of competing forces. So annuities are built for what I call the saver personality. They're not really investment products. Annuities are there to protect principal. They're to make sure people don't run out of money for retirement planning specialists such as ourselves. They're excellent because we can sit down with a saver, especially somebody who's retired or nearing retirement. And for the most part, depending on if they want what I call mailbox money, we can tell them exactly how much income, exactly, guaranteed, they're going to have for the rest of their lives. Now, if you look at it that approach, you'd say, what's not to love about an annuity? So you got to understand there's a lot of people out there that do not like annuities because they don't sell annuities. They're selling products that maybe have a little more risk and possibility for growth, but a lot of the clients we work with are savers. They don't like taking a lot of risk, they want more certainty, and annuities are excellent for those types of folks.
That makes perfect sense. And, people like to find information on the internet. Is there a better place to get more information about annuities?
Well, and I am very good at annuities. We've proved that we know what we're talking about. So I would encourage people to go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and just download our free Annuities Made Easy guide. I think that will help people understand these products much better.
Hey everyone, Aaron Ornder here again. We'll get back to the conversation with Diane and Tony in just a minute, but I want to remind those of you listening right now that you can contact our offices at any time. All you have to do is go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com and click on the blue button that says Let's Get Started. Now once you do that, just fill out the information and someone from our office will contact you to set up a free appointment with Tony. Or, if you'd like, you can call our offices at 877-499-9255. Again, that phone number is 877-499-9255. Now, we're going to take a real quick break, so hang tight. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back.
Warning: a licensed insurance agent with no prior knowledge of annuities can legally toss your 401k into an annuity. Don't get stuck in the wrong annuity. Get a second opinion from TonyWalkerFinancial.com. With the stock market at all-time highs and our nation's debt through the roof, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. Now may be the best time to safeguard more of your 401k. Let's get started today by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
With banks paying next to nothing in interest, and of course our nation's debt is really through the roof, where would a saver find a safe and predictable place to keep their money where they know they're not going to run out?
Well, that's a real problem now. Gone are the days when you could take your money and run down to the local bank and toss it in a CD and get 6%. That planning was pretty easy back then. Think about that. You could give a bank $100,000. You could take $6,000 a year in interest in perpetuity. Your $100,000 was protected. You die one day and your kids get $100,000. Pretty easy to plan. Not so with 0.5% or 1%. You just can't do it anymore. So what we've found is savers, they're okay maybe with a little bit of risk, and we have the Charles Schwab platform that can help them, but they don't like a lot of risk. So what are they supposed to do? Well, in comes a product that was introduced in the late 90s, Diane. It's called a fixed indexed annuity. And these products have been game changers because what it allows a saver to do is to participate in the stock market. They're not really in the stock market. So if the market goes up, they'll make a small smidget off the market, but that gives them a new floor. So whatever they make each year, they cannot lose. So what the saver has is what I call sleep insurance. They go to bed at night, they have these products. If the market tanks tomorrow, it doesn't affect them. And since 9/11, since I really started focusing on these products, we have written nearly $500 million of fixed indexed annuities. So the next time somebody says they don't like annuities, we've got a lot of clients that love these products.
And a lot of clients that are sleeping better every night.
That's right. I mean, it's hard to go to bed at night worried about the stock market. So what I would encourage savers to do, they can download a booklet that I wrote called Annuities Made Easy. All they got to do is go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. When they read that booklet, give us a call and we can help them better understand fixed indexed annuities.
Tony, I know you recently wrote a best-selling book that's called Live Well, Die Broke. I have to admit, that is not exactly something I would expect to hear from someone who's giving retirement advice.
Well, that catches people off guard because, don't I want to have all kinds of money? The whole purpose of the book was to remind people that you have to spend this money before it's too late. What I've seen over the years is people don't do that, and whether they want to admit it or not, everyone dies broke. What I mean by that is, Diane, you can't take it with you. So it's interesting that people work so hard to save all this money, but nobody's encouraging them to spend it. Now, here's the reason I believe the financial world doesn't want you to spend that money. If you start taking money away that you've saved with the financial world, that's less money for them. That's less commissions, that's less fees, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody makes money on your money if you don't spend it. The moment you start spending and enjoying that money is when you would get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So if you think about it that way, you've worked hard to spend it, and at some point there'll be a point in time where you can't. A lot of people we have are getting older. They don't spend any money. I mean, we have people spending a couple $1,000 a month, and they come in their 80s and go, Tony, what am I supposed to do with all this money? Well, they couldn't even spend it even if they wanted to. They're not doing traveling and doing a lot of things they did when they're younger. So I think the philosophy is right on. I think it makes complete sense. And when our clients see how that we can make sure they use, enjoy, and protect that money, and then show them how they can still use it without running out of money, it's a game changer, and it liberates them to feel like they can enjoy what they've worked so hard to save.
That makes sense. And you're dealing with savers, so that mentality, maybe you're having to mold it a little bit for them.
You're right. A saver, that goes against the grain. They've saved money. They're not good spenders. But we'll make sure they enjoy that money, and again, we'll make sure they spend it without running out of it.
Tony, at this age, so many of my friends are losing parents. I've lost one. And some of them are getting these huge inheritances. They had no idea their parents had so much money. What do you do with that money?
Well, that generation, my father's deceased, my mother's still alive, but you're right, that generation is starting to pass away. And some of that generation was very secretive about what they had. So you're right, I'm having people come into our office, our age range, and they're going, I didn't know they had $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. One of the things that people don't understand is when that money is left to them, the children sometimes kind of have what I call the guilt trip gospel over it. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to save it. And that's where we can help. The other issue is dealing with IRAs. Many of these people are passing away and leaving IRAs and 401ks to their adult children. Little do people know that the laws have changed. That money has got to come out in 10 years. And if it's an IRA or 401k that you inherit, every bit of it's going to be taxable. So here's what I would say to anybody out there. If you are receiving an inheritance of any kind, contact Tony Walker Financial right away, because what we will do, we'll sit down, we'll look at your entire situation, but then we'll bring in that inheritance and see how you want to handle that money. Because here's what I found, Diane. Sometimes kids, adult children, will look at that inheritance a little differently than how they look at the other money they've saved. And it's very important to have an advisor that understands that.
It sounds like maybe it's a better idea for even folks my age to go ahead and start planning now so that Uncle Sam doesn't take a big chunk out of, what I'd like to leave my kids.
That's right. Because if you don't do the planning now, Uncle Sam's going to plan for you.
Tony, you've been doing this 37 years. You've got 3 offices around the area and 2,000 clients as of today. What happens if something were to happen to you? I mean, you really seem to go 1,000 miles an hour.
Well, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And I would have to say 10 years ago, if something were to happen to me, that concerned me for my clients. Because, is the organization set up to continue to service what I've sold? Well, now, as we record this show in 2021, I'm very, very pleased and proud of the staff that we've assembled. We have 3 full-time fiduciaries on staff. Now, here's the difference, Diane, between my firm and a lot of other firms. I have taken the time, all the information and expertise I have, to train those fiduciaries in our process. What we do is a process at Tony Walker Financial. It's called the Worry-Free Retirement. And certainly there's products inside the process, but that process comes with a lot of expertise and training. So yes, when, not if, when something happens at Tony Walker Financial, those fiduciaries can step in, continue, because all of our clients have the same process that we've created for them to monitor their process. Not only that, I have 10 full-time service professionals. So not only do we have the fiduciaries, we have the service professionals that are trained in how to properly service the process. So I'm very pleased to announce, if something were to happen to me eventually, which it eventually will, we have people in place that can take on the company, run it. We have no debt in Tony Walker Financial. I do practice what I preach. I have a life insurance policy that's paid to the company to make sure there's plenty of money, that the staff is still employed, and that our clients are assured that we're going to be there for them for the long haul.
Succession planning is very important. That's good to know.
And it is, especially in the financial world, because the last thing you want is your financial advisor going out of business on you.
Well, everyone, America's favorite financial sidekick, Aaron Orender here, and that about does it for our time today. We hope it was informative. I can't get that word, I'm sorry. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Well, everyone, America's favorite financial sidekick here, Aaron Orender, and that about does it for our time today. Now, we hope this was informative and that you feel a little more ease about what to do in retirement. But maybe you don't. Maybe you're sitting there thinking, well, Tony, those were some great questions, but it doesn't really help my situation. So what do I need to do? Well, that question is pretty easy to answer. All you got to do is go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com and click on the button that says Let's Get Started. Just fill out your information and you've actually got a couple of options on what to do next. Now, the first thing you can do is schedule a free 10-minute phone call with Tony to go over any quick-hitting questions that you might have. Or, if you'd like, you can meet face-to-face with Tony. He would love to sit down and discuss your retirement game plan in either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. And finally, you can simply call our office at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-9255. Well, thank you for joining us. We hope you'll join us next week for the Worry-Free Retirement. And as Tony likes to say, if all else fails, you be worry-free.